Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Morning Book Buzz, where we all have our very exciting Morning Book Buzz mugs with us today that you might have seen if you joined us at ALA Annual in Chicago back in June, which seems like yesterday. But here we are. This is officially a sad time of the year for me because I hate when summer is over. But I guess the upside of it is that we are back to having you join us for Morning Book Buzz. We did I want to say we took the summer off, but we didn't. But we did take the summer off on Morning Book Buzz. And so all that means is that we have a lot of really fabulous books to talk to you about today. First, before we get started, I want everybody to know that if just by joining us today, you are automatically entered to win one of our very fun Morning Book Buzz mugs that you can then use for your coffee every time you are on one of our episodes or whenever you want to use it. And also, Charnel, if you could back up one slide. If you want to tell us what your favorite summer read was, we're always curious to hear this. I know a lot of us read some really great books over the summer. I did love my Richard Russo. I have to say, if you are a fan of the Everybody's Fool, Nobody's Fool series of books that he writes, I was so happy to visit with Sully again. He's one of my favorite book characters ever. Even though this book does take place after his death, you still get enough of Sully in there that it makes the book worthwhile. So I really did love it. Miriam and Liz, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about your summer reading? Oh, Miriam, I think you're muted. There you go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. So the book that I read this summer that I truly, truly enjoyed was The Underworld by Susan Casey. She's really an exceptional adventurer and chronicler of scientific history, as well as she brings us along to a sort of the fantastical world of the deep ocean, the hidden worlds, thousands of feet under the sea. She brings us to Puerto Rico and to Hawaii and to the Tonga trenches, and brings us to archives, to biology labs, as well as to active volcanoes in hidden worlds under the sea.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Liz Campfjord, and I am here in California. I read and am still reading Watch Your Language by Terrence Hayes. This is a poetry primer in a lot of ways. It's got timelines of literary luminaries from Elizabeth Bishop to Sylvia Plath to Audre Lorde, Lucille Clifton. I mean, it is such a fun, lighthearted and historical, just the least intimidating poetry introduction that you can imagine, and Terrence Hayes is just a total master. So I highly recommend it as an introduction, and I think it'll be a great course adoption and in schools and reading lists for a long time to come.
Great. I'm going to make an executive decision and say if you share with us what your favorite summer read was online with the hashtag PRH Morning Buzz, we are going to give away 2 mugs today. I hope nobody cares, but I'm just making the executive decision. Also, I see a lot of your comments in the chat, and I'm also in the middle of the Ann Patchett audiobook that's read by Meryl Streep, and it is very good so far. So I'm glad, and I loved Save What's Left. I thought it was hysterical. All right, so let's get on with the show. Brief reminder, if you all forgot since the last time, that there will be abbreviations on each book with what formats available in, and the most important one being the eGalley available, so you could go ahead and request a download.
And we wanted to share with you Penguin Random House's banned book site. This is a curated and centralized destination for different audiences with a focus on letting kids read. It offers information about the issue around banned books, gives updates on the different actions that one can make to make a difference here.
And in case you missed it, when I said before that we didn't do Morning Book Buzz, we still were working. Last week, I think it was last week, or maybe the week before, we had our summer library con that we have every year where we are joined with a lot of our client publishers that like DC Comics, IDW, Dark Horse, Top Shelf, also Del Rey. We had a great library con. We had so many great panelists. We had keynote speaker Pierce Brown, which was so fun because we were able to get to know Pierce. We think it was 10 years ago at ALA. So to hear about how he's doing with this series was really fun. So if you missed it, and again, we sent it all out in the wrap up, but we had a great library con, and we hope that you will enjoy and download some of the resources and go and view some of the panels that you might have missed. That being said, we also had a fandom sampler that we debuted on at the library con, and this is a great way for you to browse some of our latest fantasy, graphic novel, sci-fi, and more. So our new graphic novel and fandom sampler is also ready. And again, we will send all these links in the wrap up.
And we hope that you'll join us on Thursday, October 12th. Our guest speakers will be Colby Maddox and Laura Bethold from the Old Town School of Folk Music's Library and Archives, and special guests, editors Vicky Toback and Alec Banks, editors of LL Cool J Presents The Streets Win, 50 Years of Hip Hop Greatness.
And don't think we didn't try to get LL Cool J, because we did.
And here are three really strong virtual events. Of course, Library Journal Day of Dialogue, which is October 26th, is going to have a number of our authors, and it's just going to be a great event, as it always is. So please do register. And then LJ webcasts featuring fall audiobooks this month on September 21st. And then a really special event hosted by ProQuest also this month on September 28th, an interview with Francisco Cantu, who wrote The Line Becomes a River, which is an award-winning narrative nonfiction, and they're going to be talking about deconstructing immigration narratives in that book. So please do register. You won't be sorry. And we have just produced another debut fiction sampler with 10 excerpts of debut fiction coming out in the fall. These are really wonderful tastes of authors that you have yet to read.
And now on to our books. For other debuts, we have Jonathan Abernathy, You Are Kind. A self-proclaimed loser, Jonathan Abernathy is behind on his debts with no prospects, no friends, and no ambitions. But when a government loan forgiveness program offers him a literal dream job, he thinks he's found his big break. If he can appear competent at his new job, entering the minds of middle-class workers while they sleep and removing the unsavory detritus of their waking lives from their unconscious, he might have a chance at a new life. As Abernathy finds his footing in this new role, reality and morality begin to warp around him, and the lines between life and work, love and hate, right and wrong, even sleep and consciousness start to blur. Praised by Booklist as a sparkling first novel, Jonathan Abernathy, You Are Kind, is at once tender, startling, and deeply funny. Molly McGee's lyrical, satirical critique on contemporary work culture and society touches on themes most people know all too well, from the relentlessly crushing weight of debt, the recognition that work won't love you back, and the awkwardness of finding love when you are without hope.
Next up is Say You'll Be Mine by Naya Kumar. A teacher with big dreams joins forces with a no-nonsense engineer to survive an ex's wedding and escape matchmaking pressure from their Indian families. This is for people who loved My Best Friend's Wedding. And Colleen Hoover says, maybe some of you have heard of her, says it's a warm, smart, sexy, and absolutely charming debut. Meghna Raman's parents wanted her to be an engineer, but instead she's followed her passion, becoming a theater teacher and aspiring playwright. When she discovers that her beloved writing partner, best friend, and secret crush Seth is engaged and not to her, she realizes he's about to become the one that got away. Even worse, he's asked her to be his best man. And worse than that, she's agreed. Determined to try and move on and relieve a bit of the pressure she feels, Megna agrees to let her parents introduce her to a potential match. Maybe she could marry the engineer that her parents still wish she'd become. Um, a grumpy, handsome engineer, Karthik Marthi, has seen enough of his parents' marriage to know that it isn't for him. He only agreed to his mother's matchmaking attempts to make her happy, never dreaming he would meet someone as vibrant as Megna. As the two find common ground, grow protective of each other's hearts, and start to fall for the traits they originally thought they hated, an undeniable chemistry emerges. Say You'll Be Mine is a delightful trip back to the heyday of swoony romantic comedies from the 90s, with a deep, poignant look at the effects of culture and family in our most intimate relationships. And I love the little author note. It says, it's inspired by real life matchmaking pressure. Her debut was inspired by the time she spent with the high expectations of her Indian parents during the pandemic, which I think sounds very funny.
So I'm super excited about Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. This I really think is the debut novel to watch. He's one of my favorite contemporary poets. He's 33 years old. He's the poetry editor at The Nation. And his poems have been in The New Yorker, The Paris Review, and Best American Poetry. And his books have been selected by NPR as Best Books of the Year, etc. If you can remember how poet Ocean Vuong soared after several volumes of poetry, but then debuting his novel On Earth We Are Briefly Gorgeous, Martyr similarly contains autobiographical elements and a mother-son story. Here, a newly sober orphan son of Iranian immigrants, guided by the voices of artists, poets, and kings, embarks on a remarkable search for a family. So he invokes Rumi and many other artists and as touchstones. This is also a hilarious novel. It's again about a search for a family secret that leads our protagonist to a terminally ill painter living out her final days in the Brooklyn Museum. So here we meet Cyrus Shams, a young man grappling with an inheritance of violence and loss. His mother's plane was shot down over the skies of the Persian Gulf in a senseless accident, and his father's life in America was circumscribed by his work killing chickens at a factory farm in the Midwest. Cyrus is a drunk, an addict, and a poet whose obsession with martyrs leads him to examine the mysteries of his past toward an uncle who rode through Iranian battlefields dressed as the angel of death to inspire and comfort the dying, and toward his mother through a painting discovered in a Brooklyn art gallery that suggests she may not have been who or what she seemed. The accolades for this novel are extraordinary. John Green says, I will carry this story with me for the rest of my life. Tommy Orange says, Kaveh Akbar is one of my favorite writers ever. Mary Carr says, rip-roaringly funny, wise, and wise-assed. Akbar is a black belt storyteller, and Martyr is a page turner I couldn't put down. And next, debut novel, Hard by a Great Forest by Leo Vardiashvili, is an autobiographical novel as well, set in the Republic of Georgia. I don't know if any of you tuned in for Riverhead's variety show, which they do seasonally and is so wonderful. And Leo took us to his hometown in Georgia. And it was a really striking video, and it's available on YouTube, and we've shared it in newsletters and such. So this is set in the Republic of Georgia some years after its civil war and fighting with Russia had ended. It's a reminder of so many other places in the world, Ukraine among them, where life has been disrupted by violence. The novel was inspired by the author's own escape from Georgia at age 12 and his decade of separation from close family members. And the title, if you're curious, Hard by a Great Forest, is an echo of the first line of Hansel and Gretel, and the novel itself follows its own sort of breadcrumb trail on this mystery to finding lost family members. Our main character here is Saba and his brother. They've been fighting to make peace with the past, having fled the conflict in the former Soviet Republic of Georgia as kids. They're struggling with the sacrifices of a mother who remained in the war zone so that their father could get them out. Now they're young adults, their mother is dead, and their father has disappeared, as does Saba's older brother. So Saba sets off alone. He's joined by new friends, old ghosts, following clues and crossing into danger zones, both physical and emotional, that he thought he'd left behind. Colin McCann says of this novel, it blows open the heart of the past. It's a mystery, it's a picaresque, it's a comedy, and it's an authentic song of belonging and unbelonging.
And next, we have a breathtaking debut for readers of stories about family, community, and place from the award winning poet Delana R.A. Dameron. Mika, you sit at our feet all these hours and days hearing us tell our tales. You have all these stories inside you, all the stories everyone in our family knows, and all the stories everyone in our family tells. You write them in your books and show everyone who we are. So begins Redwood Court. Mika, the baby of the family, spends much of her time caring for loved ones, listening to their stories, and witnessing their struggles. In a cul-de-sac in the all-black working-class suburb of Columbia, South Carolina, Mika learns important lessons from the people who raise her. Her exhausted parents who work long hours at multiple jobs while still making sure their kids experience the adventure of family vacations. Her older sister, who in a house filled with Motown would rather listen to Alanis Morissette and can't wait to taste real independence. Her retired grandparents, children of Jim Crow, who realized their own vision of success when they bought their house on the court in the 1960s, imagining it filled with future generations. And the many neighbors who hold tight to the community they've built, committed to fostering joy and love in an America so insistent on seeing Black people stumble and fall. Deeply moving and nuanced, each story in Redwood Court shines a light on the experience of different members of one family, creating a dynamic portrait of an indelible cast of characters and the place that made them.
And lastly, on this slide, we have Dixon Descending, a powerful, heart-wrenching debut novel about ambition, survival, and our responsibility to one another. Dixon was once an Olympic level runner, but he missed the team by 2/10 of a second. And ever since that pain decades ago, he hasn't allowed himself to be consumed by a goal. But when his charming older brother Nate suggests that they attempt to be the first Black American men to summit Mount Everest, Dixon can't refuse. The brothers are determined to prove something to themselves and to each other. Dixon interrupts his orderly life as a school psychologist, leaving behind disapproving friends, family, and one particularly fragile student, Marcus. Once on the mountain, they are met with extreme weather conditions, oxygen deprivation, and precarious terrain. But as much as they've prepared for this, Mount Everest is always fickle, and in one devastating moment, Dixon's world is upended. He returns home racked with guilt and grief. He attempts to resume his job, but things have shifted for him and for the students he left behind. Dixon must now confront the truth of what happened on the mountain and come to terms with who can and who cannot be saved. It offers this wonderful debut offers us a captivating, shattering portrait of the ways we're reshaped by our decisions and what it takes to angle ourselves once again toward hope. It's for people who are always interested in stories about Mount Everest and putting yourself out there. And also last year, the Full Circle Everest made history as the first all-Black team to summit Everest. Their climb received coverage everywhere from CNN to Outside to USA Today. And Dixon Descending contributes to this conversation and shows us just what's at stake. So this is a really exciting one.
Next, we turn our attention to short story collections, and we start with Essential Stories by Junichiro Tanizaki. This is for fans of classic short stories, especially of Pushkin's Essential Story series, and readers who are interested in both Chinese and Japanese mythology. Lavishly opulent stories of central obsession, cultural heritage, and mythological creatures, here translated into English for the first time. This is a gorgeous new edition of 3 classic works, translated by Brian Katernick, distilling the essence of Tanazaki's shorter fiction that is commingling of Japanese and Chinese mythologies, the chillingly dark side of desire, and paper-thin line between the sublime and the depraved. Our next title is Out There Screaming by Jordan Peele. Then this is an anthology of new Black horror. As you know, Jordan Peele is the visionary writer and director of Get Out, Us, and Nope, as well as the founder of Monkey Paw Production. And here he curates not only exploring the terrors of the supernatural, but also the chilling reality of injustice that haunts our nation. In one tale, a cop sees huge blinking eyes where the headlights of cars should be that tell him to pull over. Uh, in another tale, 2 freedom riders are stranded on a lonely road in Alabama where several unsettling somethings await them. In another story, a young girl dives into the depths of the earth in search of the demon that killed her parents. These are just a few of the worlds in Out There Screaming that in Jordan's anthology in this new in this all new horror stories by Black writers. It not only features an introduction by Peele, but also an all-star roster of beloved writers from Nalo Hopkinson and N.K. Jemisin to Nnedi Ok, Okorafor and Terrence Taylor, as well as Caldwell Turnbull. This is a masterclass in horror, and like his spine-chilling films, the stories prey on everything we think we know about our world and redefine what it means to be afraid.
The End of the World is a
Oh, wait, hold
cul-de-sac.
on. We're going to go to The Goodbye Cat. Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
That's
So
all right.
sorry.
The Goodbye Cat, in the much anticipated follow-up to the best-selling and beloved The Traveling Cat Chronicles, 7 cats weave their way through their owners' lives, climbing, comforting, nestling, and sometimes just tripping everyone up in this uplifting collection of tales by international best-selling author Hiro Arakawa. Against the backdrop of changing seasons in Japan, we meet Spin, a kitten rescued from the recycling bin, whose playful nature and simple needs teach an anxious father how to parent his own human baby. A colony of wildcats on a popular holiday island show a young boy not to stand in nature's way. A family is perplexed by their cat's undying devotion to their charismatic but uncaring father. A woman curses how her cat will not stop visiting her at night, and an elderly cat hatches a plan to pass into the next world as a spirit so that he and his owner may be in each other's lives forever. This is bursting with love and warmth. As bursting with love, it explicitly explores the cycle of life from birth to death, as each of the 7 stories explore how in different ways the steadiness and devotion of a well-loved cat never lets us down. This is already a bestseller in Japan, and this book includes, like we said, 7 heartwarming chronicles, and 2 of which feature characters from the Traveling Cat Chronicles. We hope you enjoyed this book. Go ahead. Sorry,
No, I was premature. So we're going from Japan to Ireland. I don't know about you, but I have yet to read an Irish writer that I didn't love. And recent discoveries are Louise Kennedy and Claire Keegan. And if you were one of the many readers who read Louise's novel Trespasses and loved it, this is the story collection that launched her career in the UK, and now we're publishing it here. So it's a debut collection. She grew up in Northern Ireland, where her family owned a pub and worked as a chef also for decades before turning to writing. So her contact and society with working class Ireland really informs her stories. And these are stunning stories about women's lives of deprivation, both material, emotional, and sexual, but also touched by beauty, sometimes even joy, as they search for the good in the cards they've been dealt. For instance, in one of the stories, a woman struggles to forgive herself after an abortion threatens to destroy her marriage. And Emma Donoghue says of the collection, it's like 15 novels squeezed between two covers, ready to blow your mind. The only other writer I can think of who packs this much moving, terrible life into each story is Alice Munro. And so it's a really special collection, and reading it and about it, I, was kind of thinking of Joyce's Dubliners. So welcome to Louise Kennedy. If you haven't read her yet, you will love it.
Next up from me is 50 Beasts to Break Your Heart and Other Stories, Jenna Rose Nethercott. She is the author of the breakout novel Thistlefoot, and this is a collection of dark fairy tales and fractured folklore exploring how our passions can save us or go monstrously wrong. The stories in 50 Beasts to Break Your Heart are about the abomination that resides within us all, that churning, clawing, ravenous yearning, the hunger to be held and seen and known, and the terror too, to be loved too well or not enough or for long enough, to be laid bare before your sweetheart to their horror, to be recognized as the monstrous thing that you are. In these lush, strange, beautifully written stories, Jenna Rose Nethercott explores human longing in all its diamond dark facets to create a collection that will redefine what you see as a beast and make you beg to have your heart broken. Yeah, I love this description. And look at that amazing cover. And I will just say before Liz talks about the next one that I'm a little jealous that she's talking about it and we had a fight over it. But go ahead, Liz. Fine.
I know, it's such a treat to have short fictions. The subtitle is not stories, but fictions from Immortals. So this is Table for Two. Obviously, you know his name. Following the phenomenal success of The Lincoln Highway, A Gentleman in Moscow, and Rules of Civility, he has millions of readers. And here are 6 stories set in New York City and then a novella in Los Angeles, which is Even Hollywood. And this catches up with a character from Rules of Civility, and it's told from 7 points of view during Hollywood's golden age. So these are historical stories. The title refers to the common thread wherein 2 characters find themselves sitting across a table for 2, where the direction of their futures may hinge upon what they say next. That's pretty intriguing. The New York stories, most of which are set around the turn of the millennium, take up everything from the male ego to the fateful consequences of brief encounters and the delicate mechanics of compromise, which operate at the heart of modern marriages. And this also contains a tip to Toll's next novel. Eve and another character from Table for Two will play major roles in his new novel, which is projected for fall of 2025, and it will be loosely based on the life of film star Omar Sharif. And also some future news. A Gentleman in Moscow, if you didn't know, is headed to the screen. The original television series will be from Showtime and Paramount, starring Ewan McGregor and Count Rostov. And it could air as soon as early next year, hopefully adding to his substantial fan base.
Just a bonus from me, backing up. Also, I think that we should have just one morning book buzz just to talk about Immortals. That would be, I don't mind doing that if you guys are ready for it. One bonus book for me, I'm going to put in the chat. We don't have it on the slide, but because we talked about debuts, we also wanted you to know about the best debut short stories, the Pen American Dow's Prize Series, and it's the essential annual guide to the newest voices in literature. So I just wanted to put that on the screen for you so you know about it, because we just talked about short stories and debut. So we had to make sure you knew about that one. All right.
So here are some nonfiction conversation starters, beginning with a category unto himself, Adam Grant. This is Hidden Potential. The Science of Achieving Greater Things. He's one of the most popular TED Talk speakers. His talks have more than 30 million views. His New York Times piece on languishing was the most read article of 2021. Languishing as a theme, that's just fascinating, and he always is. So Serena Williams says of Hidden Potential, and she sums it up well, this brilliant book will shatter your assumptions about what it takes to improve and succeed. I wish I could go back in time and gift it to my younger self. It would have helped me find a more joyful path to progress. Following Think Again, this offers a new framework for raising aspirations and exceeding expectations. Adam Grant weaves together groundbreaking evidence, as he always does, surprising insights and vivid storytelling, taking us from the classroom to the boardroom, the playground to the Olympics, and underground to outer space, saying that growth is not about the genius you possess, it's about the character you develop. So he's exploring how to build the character skills and motivational structures to realize your own potential. And a couple of audiobook notes. It's read by the author and a cast of additional voices, including, and there are many, so these are just a few, Maurice Ashley, Sarah Maria Hasbun, Benny Lewis, R.A. Dickey, Evelyn Glennie, Brandon Payne, Allison Levine, and many more. And it also features new recordings and archival content, as well as interviews with the inspiring individuals featured throughout the book, also with light, music, and sound design. And then next is Making It in America by Rachel Slade, who is the best-selling author of Into the Raging Sea. This is a poignant and eye-opening look at the story of manufacturing in America, such a relevant topic, and whether it can ever successfully return to the US. Why our nation depends on it, and it's told through the experience of one couple in Maine, Ben and Whitney Waxman, who are two idealists attempting to do the impossible, produce an American-made, union-made, all-American sourced sweatshirt, an American hoodie. So this is a really perfect lens to tell this story. It offers a unique look at global politics, economics, and labor through the story of textile manufacturing. And it was the demand for cheap cloth that sparked the Industrial Revolution. And it was the brutality of the textile industry that first drove workers to organize. So Making It in America reveals how profoundly manufacturing shapes all of us. And it's a Publishers Weekly top 10 pick in business and economics.
Slow Down. This is a shelf awareness galley love of the week selection. Why in our affluent society do many people live in poverty without access to healthcare, working multiple jobs, and are nevertheless unable to make ends meet, with no future prospects while the planet is burning? It's a real pick me up. I'm just kidding. In his international bestseller, Sato argues that while unfettered capitalism is often blamed for inequality and climate change, subsequent calls for sustainable growth and a Green New Deal are a dangerous compromise. Capitalism creates artificial scarcity by pursuing profit based on the value of products rather than their usefulness, and by putting perpetual growth above all else. Is it therefore impossible to reverse climate change in a capitalist society? More, the system that caused the problem in the first place cannot be an integral part of the solution. Instead, Sato advocates for degrowth and deceleration, which he conceives as the slowing of economic activity through the democratic reform of labor and production. In practical terms, he argues for the end of mass production and mass consumption, decarbonization through shorter working hours, and the prioritization of essential labor over corporate profits. This is a great book for discussion, and we are happy to tell you that the eGalley is available.
Infectious Generosity. From the best-selling author, media pioneer, and curator of TED comes an inspiring book about one of humankind's defining but overlooked impulses and how we can supercharge its potential to build a hopeful future. Let's face it, recent years have been tough on optimists. Hopes that the internet might bring people together have been crushed by the ills of social media. Is there a way back? As head of TED, Chris Anderson has had a ringside view of the the world's boldest thinkers, sharing their most uplifting ideas. Inspired by them, he believes it's within our grasp to transform outrage back into optimism. It all comes down to reimagining one of the most fundamental human virtues, generosity. What if generosity could become infectious generosity? Consider how a London barber began offering.
Oh, Miriam, I feel like we lost your sound. Hold on.
Form
Oh,
from a niche annual summit into a global beacon of ideas by giving away talks online, allowing millions access to free learning. In telling these inspiring stories, Anderson has given us what Elizabeth Dunn calls the first page turner ever written about human generosity. But more importantly, he offers a playbook on how to embark on our own generous acts, whether gifts of money, time, talent, connection, or kindness, and prime them, thanks to the internet, to have self replicating, even world changing impact.
next up is no new name to conversation starters, and it's Charles Duhigg. He is the best-selling author of The Power of Habit, and this is an investigation of what makes conversations work and how we can all learn to be super communicators at work and in our lives. The right conversation at the right moment can change everything. We all know people who seem capable of connecting with anyone. They are the ones we turn to for advice, who ask the best questions, but who are also able to hear what goes unsaid and what people are really trying to say. Why are these people so good at connecting? And what can they tell us about how communication works? Super communicators, Charles Duhigg argues, understand some by intuition, some by hard won experience, that there is a science to how human beings connect. They understand that every time we speak to someone, we're actually engaging in one of three conversations. What is this really about? How do we feel? And who are we? With his trademark insights, useful tips, and vivid, memorable storytelling, Duhigg shows readers how to recognize which kind of conversation we're having and teaches us the skills we need to navigate it successfully. Beyond the practical, beyond the fascinating narratives, is also a wealth of advice, strategies, and tips, um, such as get deep fast, ask questions that reveal values and beliefs, and then reciprocate your partner's vulnerability. I think we all go through these moments where we think that we are the best communicators on earth until something happens and we feel like, oh, maybe we're not. So this book will be uh, just wonderful because he is just so smart and he always makes you think about something in a way you never have before. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one.
And our final title here is Why We Remember. And this is for readers of high end science narratives like Thinking Fast and Slow and Stumbling on Happiness. Memory is far more than a record of the past. In this groundbreaking tour of the mind and brain, one of the most top memory researchers reveals the powerful role memory plays in nearly every aspect of our lives, from recalling faces and names to learning, decision making, trauma, and healing. A new understanding of memory is emerging from the latest scientific research, and in Why We Remember, pioneering neuroscientist and psychologist Charan Ranganath radically reframes the way we think about the everyday act of remembering. Combining accessible language with cutting edge research, he reveals the surprising ways our brain records the past and how we use that information to understand who we are in the present and to imagine and plan for the future. Memory, Dr. Raghunath shows, is a highly transformative force that shapes how we experience the world in often invisible and sometimes destructive ways. Knowing this can help us with daily remembering tasks like finding our keys and with the challenge of memory loss as we age. What's more, what we work with, the brain's ability to learn and reinterpret past events, we can heal trauma, shed our biases, learn faster, and grow in self awareness.
So, beginning next week, I believe Hispanic and Latinx Heritage Month goes from September 15th to October 15th. And here are some perfect titles to feature. Beginning with Tarta Americana by J. Michael Martinez. This is his new poetry collection following Museum of the Americas, which was longlisted for the National Book Award. It's a suite of poems channeling the legendary singer-songwriter Ritchie Valens, and it examines the question, the mid-20th century conceptions of race and art, identity and desire, and it's a different perspective to Don McLean's anthem American Pie, which was inspired by the tragic deaths of Buddy Holly and Ritchie Valens. So against the recent tide of white nationalism in the United States, Tarta Americana finds a rhinestone in Ritchie Valens, the rock and roll legend, surfacing across time and bodies, genders, and sounds. Valens guides Martinez as he expresses his own neurodiversity, his struggles, and triumphs. I love what poet Dan Beachy Quick says about the book. Ritchie Valens, immortalized for La Bamba and Donna, dead at 17 in a plane accident, is here both patron saint and proxy self, and Tarta Americana is both protest song, a story of family and love, of the pain of growing up, and wide-eyed witness to the casual racism that culminates in cruel violence. In poems that pulse with a lyricism so bright it borders on the technicolor, this gifted poet gives to us what poetry and song have given him, twin consolations to the noise.
As much as I love literary fiction, I am also a sucker for frenemies to lovers trope in romance. And this is from Crystal Maldonado, who has been getting a lot of attention with her last couple of books, No Filter and Other Lies, Fat Chance Charlie Vega. And this is The Fall of Wit Rivera. Could you plan the fall formal with your hot nemesis? Yes. Wit Rivera is about to find out. Frenemies Wit and Zay have been at odds for years, ever since he broke up with her in the most embarrassing way imaginable. So when they're forced to organize the fall formal together, it's a literal disaster. Sparks fly as Whitney, type A passionate perfectionist and certified sweater weather fanatic, butts heads with Zay, a dry, relaxed skater boy who takes everything in stride. But not all of those sparks are bad. Has their feud been a big misunderstanding all along? It's blisteringly funny and profoundly well observed, and it also takes on weightier topics like chronic illness, fat phobia, and class. It's funny, honest, insightful, and we think it's going to be the next perfect book for Crystal Maldonado's Legion fans. And it's also a perfect YA title for Hispanic and Latinx Heritage Month. Oh, no, not me. Miriam, that's you. Oh, you're muted. We're sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. So next we have Si Se Puede. Shines a light on the often overlooked Latino heroes throughout U.S. history, bringing their stories to life through sequential action, illustrated characters, and lush color palette of a graphic novel. This book follows a group of students as they embark on an interactive museum tour to meet the Latinx rebels, artists, and activist heroes that they may not have learned about in school. This high tech exhibit allows the group to virtually travel through time, visiting the Hispanic Union soldiers of the Civil War, marching with Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta in the farm worker struggle, going to space with Ellen Ochoa, the first Latina to leave Earth's atmosphere, and meeting the youngest woman to serve in Congress, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. This ensemble of unlikely friends discover the rich history of Latinos in the United States and gain new insights into their own American experiences. This title is perfect for fans of inclusive graphic novel histories such as Amazon's abolitionists and activists, as well as the Black Panther Party. And it's also very ideal for middle grade readers and up. A note about the creators: Julio Anta is a writer based in New York City. He is the author of the miniseries Home, as well as upcoming graphic novels Frontera and Second Generation Blues. And Yasmin Flores Montañez is a freelance illustrator and comic artist from Puerto Rico. Her debut comic book, Goosebump series, Secrets of the Swamp, was published in 2020.
Okay, next up for me is that one was, my last one was Frenemies to Lovers. This is just straight enemies to lovers. So we got to keep those straight. Raiders of the Lost Heart by Joe Segura. Rival archaeologists must team up on a secret Aztec expedition, or it could leave their careers and hearts in ruins. It's been Corey's lifelong goal to lead an expedition deep into the Mexican jungle in search of the long-lost remains of her ancestor, Chamali, an ancient warrior of the Aztec Empire. But when she is invited to join an all-expense-paid dig to do just that, Corey isn't sure it's too good to be true until she's right. As the world-renowned expert on Chamali, by rights Corey should be leading the expedition, not sharing the glory with her disgustingly handsome nemesis. But Dr. Ford Matthews has been finding new ways to best her since they were in grad school. Ford certainly isn't thrilled either. With every going on in his life right now, the last thing he needs is a reminder of their rocky past. But as the dig begins, it becomes clear they'll need to work together when they realize a thief is lurking around their campsite, forcing the pair to keep their discoveries and lingering attraction under wraps. With money-hungry artifact smugglers, the Mexican authorities, and the lies between them closing in, there's only one way this all ends: explosively. This is featuring an academic whose confidence and success in the face of adversity will win readers over. This is a new addition to our feminist romances that will appeal to fans of Allie Hazelwood. Indiana Jones meets Lara Croft.
And our next book, Victim, is perfect for readers of smart satire such as Such a Fun Age, The Sellout, and Interior Chinatown. There's a fine line between bending the truth and telling bold-faced lies, and Javier Perez is willing to cross it. Javier is a hustler from a family of Bronx hustlers. At an early age, he learns how to play the game to his own advantage. How his background, a murdered drug dealer dad, a single cash-strapped mom, a best friend serving time for gang activity, becomes a key to doors he didn't even know existed. His story, molded in the right way, is just what college admissions committees are looking for. And a full academic scholarship to a prestigious university brings Javi one step closer to his dream of becoming a famous writer. As a college student, Javi embellishes his life story until there's hardly a kernel of truth left. The only real connection to his past is the occasional letter he trades with his childhood best friend, Gio, who doesn't seem to care about Javi's newfound awareness of white privilege or the school to prison pipeline. After graduation, a viral essay transforms Javi from a writer on the rise to a journalist at a legendary magazine where the editors applaud his unique perspective. But Gio sees through Javi's game. Once he's released from prison and Javi offers to cut him in on the deal, will he play along with Javi's charade, or will it all come crumbling down? This is a novel of the moment. Borgia's sly satirical commentary on identity, diversity hires, virtue signaling, and the alienation of social media could not be more timely. Author Victor Laval praises Victim, adding, "It's going to hurt some people's feelings." But that's exactly what smart, insightful social satire is meant to do. Andrew Borgia's dazzling debut novel is the story of a hustler whose game is to benefit from the struggles of other people. He's an identity politics confidence man, and yet he's also someone you come to care about and worry for as the stakes of his hustle grow and grow.
And lastly, for this slide, we have Oye. This is a debut novel with an unforgettable narrator. It's inspired by the author's family who emigrated from Colombia to Miami. It's a coming-of-age comedy, a telenovela-worthy drama in which our main character, Luciana, is the baby girl of her large Colombian-American family. Her older sister, Mari, is away at college and reduced to a mere listening ear on the other end of their many phone calls. So when South Florida residents are ordered to evacuate before a hurricane, it's up to Luciana to deal with her eccentric grandmother, Abwe, who's refusing to leave and has been given a crushing medical diagnosis. Abwe moves into Luciana's bedroom, and their complicated bond only intensifies. Forced to step into the role of caretaker, translator, and keeper of the devastating secrets that Abwe begins to share, Luciana suddenly finds herself center stage, rising to the occasion of adulthood. The entire novel is told as a series of one-sided phone calls from Luciana to her big sister, Tamari, and it reads like you're listening in on family gossip, at times uproariously funny, at times deeply poignant. And that's it for the books. Now I wanted to tell you about an exciting audio partnership with New York City's Teatro Sea, the premier Latino children's theater in the U.S. We're publishing a collection of 9 bilingual audiobooks this fall. Each immersive audiobook is based on the theater company's productions by young audiences and written by artistic director and founder, Dr. Manuel Antonio Moran, who says of this new venture, having written and presented theater for young audiences for over 35 years, I am excited to expand my work through audiobooks by sharing stories from Latin America, Latinized classic children's stories, and original tales. I hope to not only have listeners hear them, but also allow them to dream and envision them on stage. So the audiobook recordings will be narrated by notable Latin voices. We have Mexican actors Jorge Blanco, Beto Castillo from Sesame Street, Carolina Ayala, and a full cast which will narrate Viva Pinoco, Un Pinoco Mexicano, a heartwarming retelling of the classic folktale by a young Mexican immigrant on his journey to understanding himself, his heritage, and embracing a new country. And then for Mi Chivita Mágica, follows Lucy and her very special group of friends on a journey through captivating Colombia and is narrated by Colombian actors Juliette Restrepo, Juan Pablo Raba, Carolina Gutierrez, and Johanna Corre from Grey's Anatomy, and more. So then lastly on this slide, but again, please do visit penguinrandomhouselibrary.com to see the whole post about Teatro Sea and learn more about the backlist and these titles. But for this slide, Cenicienta Tanguera tells the story of Cinderella, a Cinderella who loves to tango. Sing and tango your way into this hilarious and enchanting twist on the classic story, and you might learn a lesson or two about holding on to your hopes and dreams. Thank you for your attention for this new project. And then if you would like to get some of our fabulous swag, the audiobooks are not cheating swag, please do sign up to receive some this fall. And yeah, those are fun. Thank you so much for watching. Our next installment will be in October. Thank you, Kelly and Miriam, for this presentation and for everybody who spent some time with us this morning. I hope you got some good information and great title lists.
Yes, thank you. That was really fun. And welcome back to Morning Book Buzz. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.